the entirety of a server lifecycle. I'm such a doomer when it comes to guild stuff. I always talk about it on stream, like, guilds always implode and all this. That's probably more impressive than even killing. I don't know. I mean, it depends.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
Eden! Where my Eden boys at?
Shout out to Eden on Scarab. And Dunedain, which your guild is?
Fellowship. Yeah, it's
but it's on Bloodfang, right?
It's on Bloodfang EU.
Yeah, but you're right, Carlos. It's not easy, bro. Yeah.
No, I can say, especially Phase 6 now, it's unbelievable how many guilds just fell apart in the last week. On the server, I think 25% of the guild just broke up, on the line side at least. It's one of the toughest, and I do understand why, and at the same time I don't really, because in my opinion this is a raid we've been waiting for. It's extremely fun to do, but many people seem to think it's too hard, or they need to put too much time and gold in it. Probably too much time and gold.
I think that's the main thing, because like when you look at like how many wipes, like I used to be in a mythic raiding guilds and other expansion stuff like that, and you would have sometimes 200 wipes on a boss, right? And you would consume and go in on every fight, really. But the difference is in vanilla, right? Like every fight that you do is like 10 minutes of farming, or 100 gold, or this that. You could put a pretty heavy amount of finite gold on that thing. But I think what Melron and myself, and we always talk about how the leadership has been really, really good and stuff like that, but I think most of the kudos goes to like our core raiders who have just shown up every week, come world buffed, come with the consumes, come ready to go. We have a very kind of, it's motivating, right? So like I feel like we motivate each other really well. But I think when you look at the type of guild that we were before and how we've grown over the past year and a half, whatever, I think a lot of it's been due to us kind of being open about our expectations about like what we want to see in everyone, and then also using like positive reinforcement instead of like just shitting on people. A lot of like guilds do, if they just will call someone out, and just it's all about the way you talk to people too, I think. But I don't know, we've been really lucky, I think, too, as well, with the kind of people that we've had.
Just an observation from the outside looking in. You guys have come a long way from a guild, where you definitely started off with, like, I think going into Classic, not expecting to go super, hardcore with it, but you guys have, there's always that thing they say, like, the most important thing with a guild is having everybody on the same page, but you guys kind of switch pages and it evolves over time, and now you guys are a pretty serious guild, looking at your accomplishments and the way you deal with things, so.
What I learned, and I didn't know this going in, Cargos, is that you almost have to be to get through. So initially, I didn't do a lot of raiding on private servers. I did some, very, very minor. Just I didn't want to get my feet wet because I wanted to do it all in Classic. In retail, you have multiple difficulties. You can be a casual guild and see all the content. In Classic, especially with Nax coming out, that was true up until now. AQ was a joke. AQ, I think we were talking about this before stream. AQ was easier to BWL than MC, in my opinion. There was more shit that can go wrong in MC and BWL than there can in AQ. And
I haven't heard that before, actually. Yeah.
AQ, dude, and especially from a healer perspective, AQ is like just so boring, right?
The hardest part about AQ is the trash after Twin M's.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, delete that, and AQ is probably a good trade.
Yeah. So as soon as you go into Nax, you just realize, like, well, I'm really glad we made these changes going in, like, during BWL and AQ, because we wouldn't have made it. Like, it goes from, I wouldn't say it goes from, like, normal to mythic. That's not really what it is. You really can't compare it. Yeah. But the amount of dedication and the amount of, like, personal responsibility just goes up, like, non-linearly, honestly. Yeah. And if we didn't make those changes, I don't think think a serious, I guess is the word I would use, serious guild would make it.
So it'd be very tough for like a casual guild to go and try to make it through. Next, so here's my question.
I want to jump in on that if I can.
Go for it.
Quickly. So I think we started with a little bit of the same idea when Classic started when it comes to guilds, and we kind of stuck with the idea. So we are still like the non-really semi-hardcore, more like to casual guild, but it comes down, I think, to us that we have a really very good core of players who stuck around with us. Like 25 people stuck around from the beginning till now. And we just kept recruiting, and people come and go. But the ones that come and go are usually the new ones. The core of 25 is really sticking together, and they are some really good players as well. But it's one of the hardest things. You're right, to have people on both sides of the spectrum. People bringing all the buffs and all the gold and everything needed. Then on the other hand, you have the really casual players, and it doesn't fit well. But I don't want to change it now so late into Classic. For TBC, we are probably going to change it because we are going to TBC, I think, as a guild.
Yes.
I'll talk about that later. But it's very hard keeping a casual guild. I think or semi-hardcore to casual guild. It's kind of hard to define because you have those two spectra on both sides of the spectrum players, which it's so hard to handle.
You look at like, and it makes sense why Blizzard went from 40 man to 25 man, because there's just so much that goes on with trying to run a 40 man guild in this way, right? Like trying to have everyone responsible for their own actions, and doing it with 40 people compared to 25 is a lot easier. Also with the other changes that go on in TBC rating, like looking at, like, obviously we have the loot tokens now and stuff like that, but I think going into TBC from a vanilla 40-man raid, there's a lot of issues with that too. It's like, how many people are going to come with us? Are we going to have to make 2 raid groups, or are we doing 1? Or like, what's the issue with that? But I think, looking at how we're going to be raiding in TBC, the expectation now is that, like, you're going to have fights where you're going to be wiping multiple times. That's going to happen. You're going to have fights that are going to be a little bit more difficult, that are going to have, more mechanics and things like that. So it's a nice step into the realm of TBC, into like what we're going to be expecting. Using a lot more consumables, not having to worry about world buffs is going to be fucking huge. I cannot wait to not have to worry about world buffs. But consumers are going to be that much more important, right? So you're going to see a lot of people who, I've always been on that mentality as like, every pull that I want to do, I wanted to make it like, put our most into it. Let's consume. Let's get a little bit further than we did last time. Even if we still wipe, at least we learned something from that wipe. And I think going into TBC, it's going to be a little bit more of that, a little bit more hardcore than it was in Vanilla WoW. But I think this is a good kind of step into that.
Yeah,
I fully agree.
I've been boosting some characters on Endless up because it's at the end of the server life cycle, and just getting my feet wet with all the classes in Endless. Ran some stuff last night, and I have so much to say on that front. What I'll tease at right now is that in TBC, it's almost like the developers did identify a lot of the pain points that diminished quality of life in Classic, and they went, yeah, let's just like make the quality of life a little bit better. When it comes to the cost of consumables, like world buffs, we can talk about that later. But just to round out the knack stuff, as a question to you guys, because I haven't had any firsthand experience myself, every single time new raid came out, you were wondering, Defcam Melderon, you were like, is Blizzard gonna tweak it and make it way harder? And each time it kind of just fell over, right? Like, you really think Nax held up to its reputation?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, there's still a number. Obviously, there's more people clearing it now than there was back then. That's clear, right? But again, that's because of knowledge of world buff stacking, knowledge of the mechanics, knowledge of what consumables you're going to need going in. It's probably one of the most well designed raids I've ever seen, and I'm saying that from a. They finally, I think they got to a point where they're like, let's make every class, every role, kind of have a special thing they can do, and let's make everyone feel like they can make an impact into the raid. Mm-hmm. Let's make the mechanics challenging enough so that you have to do certain things. The fact that they put shield walls on the 4 horsemen so you can't burst them, even though you can. But back then you could have never done it, right? Like the fact that they did Loethid, where it's like, oh well, you think healing is a joke? Well, how about you can only heal once per minute, right?
Yeah.
Things like this where they just make outside the box.
Priests have to tank on Resuvius,
cool.
like
that too. Super cool raid design. I think the mechanics are amazing. And like Dunedin said, I really enjoy going in there, even though it can be a pain in the ass wiping on staff or whatever. It's like, I don't know, man. Breath of fresh air, as far as I'm concerned, and it saved Classic, in my opinion, from being what people would consider a pushover.
Wow, it saved Classic in your opinion. I love that, how you just commit to that hard-hitting statement. So, even if you're a retail Mythic Raider, right, and you look at Classic, and you're like, look at all these Classic Andy Dad gamers playing this old version of the game, Imagine raiding in Classic, PvE, Omega Low, all this, right? So, Classic gets a little bit more of a defense with Nax, right? Like, it's a serious raid.
And it's not just a little bit. Just the design of the raid, the music, the overall atmosphere, the 4 different wings, all the different styles you see. It's extremely well designed. The bosses are fun. Like I said, the music, the atmosphere, the screams of Thaddeus or that's Thaddeus, right? Yeah, that. That's it. The first time I entered, I never went into Nax before. So the first time I entered and I heard that, I was amazed, really, and I still am really, even 4th time or 4th week. We are in it now. Is it the 4th week?
Yeah, 4th or 5th.
5th.
Yeah. I still enjoy every minute of it, really. The one thing that makes it a little bit annoying to some is probably that it's really expensive, but that has nothing to do with the raid. It's more to do with how Classic is designed, or Vanilla WoW is designed, and not so much with the raid in itself. But it makes you wish that the other raids, the older raids, were a bit harder and a bit buffed. Because there's some good stuff in there. Blackwing Lair is a nice designed raid. Q not so much, but Blackwing Lair definitely has some good stuff in there.
Let me be real for a sec, though. I think that there's still a huge difference between, what there is in a retail Mythic raid compared to.
Oh yeah, I'm not comparing the two.
So let me just So here's the thing, right? Never in vanilla before has there been such a level of personal commitment between each individual player, right? Never in vanilla before has there been, such a level of, preparation and things like that. So, you go into a Mythic raid and, you're expected to wipe on a boss maybe 100 times or something like that, right? That's not necessarily the case in Nax. The case in Nax is the amount of time and preparation that goes into it. They're 2 totally different animals. But someone who has, done Mythic raiding before absolutely has to look at Nax and respect that there is a huge level increase of difficulty from the raids previously in Vanilla WoW to Nax, and you really start to see the growth in how they started to change the raids and how the mechanics started to be a lot more personally, looked at. So, like, you can be doing everything you have to do on Sephiron, and a mage forgets to decurse, right? And then Sephiron gets healed, and then someone dies. Same thing for Noth, right? Everyone's doing what they got to do. Someone forgets to decurse, the whole raid wipes, right? So, like, this is where you really start to see a lot more of this personal commitment and personal responsibility that has evolved so much into what Mythic raiding has become. There are less mechanics per encounter, but the mechanics mean so much more. Before, where world buffs could just bypass mechanics, you're not going to bypass Sephiron's mechanics unless you are really, 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 you have at least a little bit of frost resistance and are DPSing really, really quickly, and have maybe 15 healers instead of 10 or whatever like that. So there are still ways to kind of cheese stuff, but it's a lot more difficult, and it takes more strategy, and it takes a lot more effort and commitment. So you really start to see, and I'm sure, and of course, people who I'm sure a lot of us have done a lot of the raids in TBC, you start to see how that goes forward into TBC and then into Wrath, and becomes more and more throughout the years. But Nax is like that first real step into, okay, this is it now. Like, we're actually doing it.
Nax almost belongs in TBC, I believe. That sounds weird, but I guess when you're when you've played through Classic and you get to this point, it almost feels like you're doing a more of a TBC-ish raid. Even like from the tanking perspective, tanks wearing more mitigation. It's a very different tanking meta. It's a different healing meta. It's
CC.
Yeah, CC is more important. It's really weird. Like it almost feels like it shouldn't be in Classic.
I see.
Yeah, but it's a great raid, like 100%.
Yeah, it's a beautiful raid. It's a stunning raid. Visually, doing the world first race with you two, Melderon, watching it, it brought back so many memories. Even though I only experienced it in Wrath, it's just sometimes I have a hard time even realizing that all that depth is in vanilla. You know, but the last thing I'll say, because we should move on to TBC stuff. But the last thing I'll say is as an observation, and I think when you think of the strengths of vanilla and what makes vanilla unique compared to future iterations of the game, is really, it's like World of Consumable Craft, right? It's World of buffs and consumables and all these weird tools and items and mechanics out there that you can take just freely as an open platform to the world and bring in and be creative, right? And it was so cool that like on fights on KT, which is the final boss, the ultimate boss of vanilla, right? You're using sticky glues, slumber sands. You're using, sleeping powder, whatever, all this magic dust, and it's like the beginning of the game is still impactful with the very end of the game. I don't know why that's so cool to me. It was like giving me nerd chills when I saw, he's mind controlling everybody, and people are tossing out their level 5 items, bag of marbles, whatever. It's just,
it's amazing.
Yeah.
It is, dude. You're absolutely right. It's amazing. Like I don't think anyone. I mean, maybe some people did. Some private server veterans probably knew that you could use those items, but like we didn't think about that when it first came out, and it was just. You're right. Classic is unique in that way, where it's like there is so much meta that people don't like think about initially that you could use in the game. Engineering all these little one-trick items that you can only get once per character, that you could like voice talettes that I'm using on Saffron, like
voice talettes.
Voice talettes. It's like that's why Classic will always be legendary, is because of that.
And what a great way to close up Classic WoW. You know what I mean? It's just such an awesome way to close it up. And,
it went out with a bang. Is how it's how it's looking, right? So that's love to see it. You really do.
And I don't know if you saw the video Melderon made with us doing all the bosses, but like, he had at the end of like, the pictures of us killing Rag and Onyxia and then Neff and then Cthulhu and then, killing KT. And it's like, this is what we had set out to do when we talked about creating our own guild. This is what we had talked about doing with our friends, and like to be able to get there and, killing KT, whatever was the second week or whatever it was for us. And it was such an amazing moment. And now for me, it's like, okay, this is it. Like, here comes TBC. The fucking, this is what I've been waiting for the most, is like TBC is my favorite thing. And I just, it was a really nice way for me to close out even though it's not over yet, right? The chapter of Vanilla WoW, Classic WoW.
Yep.
It's strange how quick it went. But I want to say 2 more things on Nax. First, you know how I usually just like the green, the lushy zones and raids and environments in WoW.
Yeah.
And I really dislike like the undead starting area and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, entering Nax is the first time I really understood why people like undead zones, and it made me want to play one even for a brief amount of time. The first time I really understood the whole dark and zombie and all that stuff. The very first time, really. So that's a big achievement. And then I really want to touch lightly on difference between Alliance and Horde in Nax, because we were talking a bit about it before the talk here. So I heard you say on stream, DevCamp, that you think Saffron is easier as a Alliance.
Well,
I don't know if I agree with that, man.
So from what a lot of the sentiment that people were saying in chat, that having like frost resistance aura, and obviously you have frost resistance totem, right? It moves with you. Yeah, it's a lot easier, I think, with the frost resistance aura. However, I do realize that you guys do lack on the raid DPS. However, shamans really do not add raid healing. Shamans really do not add to the raid healing as much as you think, because people are moving around so much. So it really comes down to the priests and druids that are doing most of the raid healing. So in that terms, I do think that probably the Alliance has a little bit better than the Horde, but it's still a really hard fight for either faction.
I really feel like we missed the AoE healing, but if you say shamans don't really help that much.
It's just that people are spread out a lot, and chain heal's effective. Well, during the ground phase, chain heal's great.
Yeah.
During the air phase, it loses a little bit of its effectiveness. So that's the thing where we kind of feel shamans feel a little like, what the hell are we doing right now? You know, but you can strategize around that.
I just thought it was cool that apparently, you know, TBC in Classic Horde has the higher potential, but in practice, Alliance are the guilds that are clearing it. Yeah, it's just a cool thing.
They have the safer. They have they can fall back on things a lot more, right? Like you have shield, you have DI, you have Paladin blessings. Like if you lose all your world buffs, the fact that you still have kings is still fucking huge, right?
Yeah.
Like so I think like Paladin is a little bit more of the safer, or Horde is a little bit more of the you can maybe burn something down a little bit quicker with all your world buffs and shit like that. But I think it's something good, and then that of course only happened in Classic, and all that ends in TBC when we get Paladins, the Alliance gets Shamans, and everything's on the even playing field, which I think is is cool. But I can't wait to get the King's buff, man.
Speaking of awesome. TBC, let's segue into some TBC stuff, guys. So I mean, there's a lot of rumors, hearsay, alleged leaks going around. BlizzCon line is in a handful of days here. I mean, it's still, I guess, 2 months away or so, a little under 2 months away.
Right.
But if you guys have any questions in the chat, feel free to put them in. We'll see if we can answer or snag a few of them. But just to kick it off, Stay Safe released a video this past week saying Classic TBC release dates leaked. Really take this stuff with a grain of salt. I'm no disrespect to Stay Safe, but at the end of the day, it's just a forum post and a cropped Discord message. But there's always that possibility that there could be some truth in it, right? And you see Nano's tweet popping up here. He's always tweeting about TBC rumors and stuff like that. So it's about that time. The TBC hype is in the air. You can feel it. It's tangible, and we're here for you to discuss all things TBC on this episode.
Oh, yeah, baby. Hell fucking yeah. Dude. I cannot fucking wait. Oh my god, I'm so hyped.
So here's here's what his crop Discord message said, or that allegedly. It said TBC beta mid-February, TBC 2.0 pre-patch earmarked for April 13th, 14th. Release date May 4th. Does anybody flinch at this? Timing? So that is official release, not beta, right? That's like beta is mid-February. I think the beta in mid-February sounds a little early to me.
How can they release the beta if they haven't announced the game yet? That's what I don't understand, right?
Well, it's probably going to be announced on the BlizzCon Online, and then immediately have the beta.
So that means the beta is going to be like right after the announcement.
No, when's the date of the BlizzCon thing?
It's February 19th through 21st, I think. And it's free for everybody, too, by the way, if anybody is concerned about paying for it or whatever. This year they're doing it for free. So.
Wait, for free and open or closed?
Yeah, no.
No, TBC BlizzCon Online, is going to be free to watch. In the past, they charge like $30 to watch it or something.
Yeah.
We don't know anything about the beta yet, Melron.
No. My point is, it seems very challenging to announce the game and say the beta is also available right now.
Oh,
they did that once before. It wasn't for a big game. It was for Hearthstone. It was kind of a big game. For Hearthstone, they did that. They announced it on BlizzCon, and the day after it released.
Yeah, it's not unprecedented. Yeah. And I think that there is a possibility with them doing that, especially if they're going to try to release it by May, if that's correct, right? So potentially, say a beta is out by late February, right? So it's February, March, April, May. That's maybe 3.5 months or so to the launch, which is what you want in a beta, about 3 months or so. So if this is correct and they're saying May 3rd release, obviously I think a lot of this is taken with a grain of salt, and the dates are probably but I think a good thing is to look at Shadowlands and see what's going on with Shadowlands and seeing when the lulls in the content are there in Shadowlands. And potentially then we can look and see, okay, does this line up with a potential TBC?
I don't think they care about that, honestly. Because they release Nax when Shadowlands released, pretty much.
But I think when you're talking about an actual release of like TBC, I think that they're going to have to try to coincide that with it.
Maybe
a lull in the content in Shadowlands,
I mean, it's possible. I just feel like the beta's that's really soon. I don't know.
I know for us content creators, it's a lot because we're looking at, I myself have a bunch of priest stuff you want to get out. You want to get out shaman stuff. There's a lot of work to be done.
Like, that's not why I think it's fast. I just think, Hearthstone, okay. Hearthstone's a 2D card game, right? Like, I feel like it's hard to put out a beta of a game, like, and especially a closed beta, being like, I don't know. Well, I mean, we'll see. But
is it going to be closed, or was that not stated in the leak?
It wasn't, but I'm assuming it's going to be closed.
So my question is, how did they do it for Classic, right? I'm trying to think back. So they did a demo, like, was that 2 years out or 1 year? I think it was 2 years out, wasn't it, the demo? Or was
the demo was... So the demo, if you remember, Cargos, it was after the beta was already available, right? So there was a beta.
No. It was opposite.
The classic
demo was before the beta.
Demo was before the beta. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, that was, you had BlizzCon, then the year after you had BlizzCon with the demo, and then half a year after
you're right.
you had the beta.
Wait.
Yeah.
BlizzCon with the demo at BlizzCon, but wasn't there an invite? Didn't they have a demo that came out after the beta where everyone was invited to it?
No. Yeah,
you had a stress test.
Everyone was invited to it. The stress test. Yeah.
The stress test. I'm sorry, I'm thinking of something different then. Okay, yeah. So
the demo was open to everyone too.
So the demo was first, then there was...
Was that BlizzCon 2018?
Invite-only beta.
BlizzCon 2018 was the demo? And then...
No.
Yes.
Was there a demo there?
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Correct.
It was announced 2017, demo 2018.
Yeah.
And,
Oh, right, demo 2018. And
so
the beta came out after the demo, right?
Yeah.
Was there another BlizzCon after the demo?
Yes.
Before Classic. Released, and maybe they did they announced the beta right then.
No, because that was the BlizzCon we went to.
Yeah, we went to that BlizzCon.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah,
but Classic was already out then. Yeah, Classic was already out then.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Shadowlands was announced.
So Classic must have released in between, right? At that point, right?
It released August, right?
I have such a bad
August,
memory.
December.
Yeah,
so
August 16th.
BlizzCon was in December. Whatever the fuck. Yeah. So Classic was already out. We were already doing MC when we were in BlizzCon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But you're right. There was the demo, then the beta. So what they could potentially do is announce TBC at this virtual BlizzCon, have a demo ready for people at right after that BlizzCon, and then probably have a TBC beta within a couple weeks of that demo. But then the thing is, do they do what they did with Classic to have an invite-only beta? A lot of people were angry with that, if you guys remember. A lot of people were very angry that it was an invite-only beta. Melder and I were lucky enough to get invited to it, but there was a lot of people that should have been invited to it that weren't, and like yourself included, right? I mean, there was a lot of weird shit that happened with the beta, and I think they should probably learn from that mistake and maybe just invite anyone who has
I don't think they're going to, though, bro. If it was invite only, they should have done a closed beta IMO, but they're going to do it the same way, I think. That's where I'm putting my hat in that arena. Yeah. They're going to invite their favorite content creators. I don't know if we'll be on the list. Hopefully, but at the same time, you also have to acknowledge that it is sort of unfair for a lot of people, like just watching, why can't we play or whatever, and they have to just get blue balls for a couple months watching the Blizzard Boys Club play. You got in the
beta, right? It just took a little while. It was,
I finessed my way into the beta. That's all I'm going to say, man. Just like a lot of other people.
Yeah, exactly. So the thing is, I feel like sometimes Blizzard doesn't have a good... Well, I feel like they didn't have a really good pulse on the Classic community before Classic came out. Hopefully it's a little bit better now. There are a lot of content creators that aren't, we focus on Classic, right? There are the big content creators that, they play Classic, they play Shadowlands and all that. And those people, even though there are the people that are maybe more, it's suited for their invites and stuff like that, the people that I think are doing the most work, and if they want to invite, Asmongold and as all these people, right, they're going to put it out and promote it for them a lot. But the people that also do the most work, and when Melderon gets invited to a beta, he does nothing but test, right? He tests. So there's the kind of people that you want to invite people that are going to promote it as well, but you also want to invite people that are going to do the testing, that are going to be writing the guides, going to do all of this kind of stuff as well. So I feel like they need to do a little bit of a better job to invite those people as well, not just the people to promote the game, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You can have both. But the thing is, I don't know. It's hard, right? Because one side of the marketing department is going to make, who's the biggest streamers? These people get invites, right? That's easy. So I think it's up to the rest of the crew to understand, like, how, the point of a beta, right, is not, and this is shifted in gaming, but originally the point of beta was to test things, right? That's the point of a beta.
It's
right?
like 80% marketing, though, right? It's no longer about the bugs that much. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't test that many bugs. I'm not like a pro bug tester or anything. That's why I probably shouldn't have been invited to the beta. But then in that case, a lot of other people shouldn't either. I reported whatever that popped up.
I like what Fresh Fox is. Go pop some Adderall, pretend Shadowlands is great, beta invite GG easy. Like,
there you go. This is the greatest game I've ever played. And then you get a beta
in their defense, though, man, and I know, like, we're a bit biased here, right? But Shadowlands has survived through that initial, that initial testing point where people usually turn on the expansion. It looks like it's sticking around. Like, people seem to enjoy it. I don't know, with TBC coming, what's going to happen.
Yeah, I have really not done any. I played it for an hour.
Yeah.
And I gotta farm shit for Nax. So I with Nax being out, didn't have any time to really play Shadowlands. I will say that I am a little bit surprised, and I think that it is probably doing better than I initially thought. But I still feel like that time is still to come, Cargo. So I feel like there's like the implementing. They're still in the honeymoon phase. I feel like with Shadowlands.
Yeah,
it's still early,
very early.
I don't know. I feel like they survived through it, but we'll see what happens. I don't want to show retail too hard here. But the one thing I will say is Project 30 is out. I don't know who started it or what it is. I don't know if anybody's heard it, but I'm throwing it out there. Just for those of you who are just dying to play DBC, maybe don't want to play private servers or whatever, they're doing this new thing where you can level on retail up to 30 and do all the TBC content. If you just type it into YouTube Project 30, I'm sure you can find all the details. But that's happening as we speak. And I know Crix rolled a tune there, and he was saying there's like 450 people online in the guild and stuff. So that's
pretty
definitely
cool.
something happening right now. If you want to.
So we're talking about TBC. So there's a lot of like preparation going on right now, right? So I know there's some people who are playing on undocumented servers, and I'm not one of them. So, but
that's a better representation of what the game's gonna be like, though.
It is. But like for me, so I played very heavily in actual TBC, arena rating and all that. I played some in private servers, right? But there are people right now that are like playing really friggin' hard, that are doing 2v2, 3v3 arena. And I feel like what's going to happen is the game's going to launch. There's going to be these people who have been doing arena in TBC for like the past 2-3 years that are going to completely dominate.
Oh yeah, they are.
I'm a little bit afraid of that because I have not been practicing. So yeah, I wonder if they're going to implement some of the arena in the beta or not. The way they did it with Classic is they had like level 30 cap and level 40, right? You never even got to like the level cap or whatever. So, but I think part of the beta should be testing the PvP in arena, right? What do you guys think?
I mean, yeah.
Honestly, I wouldn't be mad if it was just a very small closed beta with no streaming rights, and everything starts on the release date and everyone goes in fresh, really, because last time the beta didn't really help the hype, in my opinion. But that's a different.
That's a hot take though. But dude, I'm actually in your camp here, doing Dan. But seriously, I've talked about this on stream, and like literally nobody agrees with us. I swear to God. Like I think to myself, if there wasn't an open beta and people didn't watch it for a couple months, and like everybody was truly on the same page, taking their first steps as a collective, as a whole, all of us together, streamers and non-streamers, everyone together, first steps into Elwyn. It'd be more of a magical moment, and maybe it'd be more of an explosive, catalytic event, and it would maybe create more hype. But I'll tell you, 95% of people feel like just watching streamers play it for a bunch of months and not being able to play it themselves was better marketing, and maybe it is.
I agree. I feel like some of the hype was lost because of the beta. I do. I feel like some of that magical, because Classic WoW was such a huge undertaking, right? It was the cries of all these people and the people who had worked on NAS and people like Nano and all this, and then to see it kind of taken over by not that group, right, was a little disheartening for a lot of people, right? Because you had so-called private server people, right, who were the ones who had been wanting this game to come out, and then it was like invited to people who've never even played Classic WoW or to people who weren't even that big of a part of it. And a lot of people got upset at that, and a lot of people saw these people playing it and were like, this isn't indicative of what I wanted and the people who I wanted to play, which I can understand, you know what I mean? And I think then seeing it out for 3 months, and then people were very angry that they were like, listen, I'm the person who's been wanting this to happen for so long. I didn't even get invited to beta, and they're inviting, Pokimane or whatever, to this beta. I'm just throwing a name out there or whatever, you know what I mean?
I want to know a hot take, though? Conspiracy theory, tinfoil hat, and I'm usually not one to think. Maybe Blizzard did actually invite all the OGs that played real vanilla and had accounts back there, and then all the streamers just like bought it or like jugged and finessed their way in and stuff like that. No, you think they actually?
No.
Okay.
No.
I mean, I don't think they had the ability to contact those people, right? I don't know, but yeah, I mean it depends if someone advertised that they had it or whatever. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, I see both sides of the coin, right? But at the end of the day, Blizzard's a company who actually had their stock prices have been actually doing very well right now, which is amazing, right?
Really?
They were doing the top
really
5.
Well.
Top 5 increase, I believe, in stock prices over. It was crazy, like
out of all companies.
So. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is like they obviously know what they're doing more than I guess I gave them credit for a couple years ago, from a business perspective. And if you're going to get your game out there, the best way to do it is to give it to the biggest audiences, because they're going to want to play with those. They're going to want to play with their favorite streamers. Number one, number two, they're going to want to see it, and the best way for them to see that TBC is happening is to put it on the stream. I mean, but. You're right.
Yeah.
The core part of me doesn't agree with that, but at the same time, I can't argue with the business acumen there. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But
if it's launched on release date and all streamers stream it on release date, you still see it and people still buy it. So don't really get the point there. But yeah, I'm not an economic mind. So.
There are some people that don't even know, that don't follow stuff like this, right? Like, they don't know that TBC is coming out.
No, but they will not know that when you have a beta streamed either. So, I mean...
I see what you're saying.
It's just going to be 2 months later that people will see it, but then it's still in time to buy the game, right?
Yeah.
I would they will know if Asmongold's streaming it, right? I think they will know if... What's the other guy's name? Soda Pop and streaming it, right? Like stuff like that.
Probably.
So the other aspect of this news too, that we will want to say is there's this survey. A second survey went out to the community, and it was another TBC survey. So for anybody who's going, man, maybe Blizzard won't even do TBC, right? Maybe it's maybe they are not going to announce it, right? There was another survey that came out asking for more specifically whether you would want to play on a fresh start TBC realm, or would you like to continue your character onto TBC, or the real X factor here. I wasn't expecting this. I don't know if you guys were. Came out of left field. They were like, "What about a classic fresh? Would you play on a classic fresh? And if you would play on a classic fresh, would you play on it more, the same, or less, or concurrently with TBC?" So now there's this. I mean, to me, as a classic Andy, that's exciting that it gives those folks who really do prefer vanilla over all else. Even people in Onslaught, they're not going into TBC. They're actually going to stay. Vanilla, give them something to look forward to. So that could be the first real discussion point here too, because we're going to hit this from very different perspectives. You guys have successful guilds that are still together at this point. Would you play on a fresh TBC server, or would you just continue your characters? What are the pros and cons in each? What bothers you in each respect? Maybe we can talk about that.
So I think realistically, the majority of people are, and I think this is obvious, right? I hope. I think the majority of people are going to continue their classic character to TBC, right? I think that's going to be the most popular. I went on a Reddit post where they did a copy of that post and did it so they could view the results, and I think 80%, based on about 10,000 results, 80% of people voted for that, for the TBC continuation of their characters. And which was really interesting, though, was that a large percent of, I think it was about 20%, wanted the fresh classic, and we're going to play on that. So that's 20%, possibly, of people are going to be playing. Even if they're going to be playing on TBC as well, they're also interested in playing that fresh classic. And I think that's the best possible scenario, in my opinion, is to continue TBC characters, possibly fix the realms. Please, Blizzard, fix the realms and not have 50,000 people all horde on one server. Okay, possibly have that, and then have some people being able to play Fresh Classic and also playing TBC if they want to. Right? I think that is the best possible scenario. I think that's going to be the most likely scenario. I think it's going to be the most popular scenario.
I think that's what's going to happen, and I think that so. So to answer your question, Cargos, I'm definitely just. I'll come back to Classic eventually, 100%. But I'm taking a break from it. I'm going TBC 100%. I running a guild in Classic, getting world buffs every week, twice a week. It's just it gets to you, right? It really gets to you. Like maybe like hardcore would be an amazing thing to do once in a while, but like I am not going to go full bore in the Classic for a long time. Probably until after Wrath, to be honest. But I will probably have characters on a Classic realm that I would just tool around with. Maybe do some alliance this time. Maybe do something a little different. But I'm telling you, like the daily grind of getting world buffs and doing it's just if they got rid of world buffs, that would be maybe a different story. Honestly.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But
if they were not to release TBC and just Classic, I would stick around in Classic and play Horde side this time. But I think they are going to do both, like both of you said already. But I think they should also probably add like 1 or 2 fresh TBC servers for new people joining. Not necessarily for people who think that gold is a problem, because I feel like if you don't have gold now in vanilla, you will not have gold in TBC.
Exactly.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But the new people, those that just want to start in TBC and those that didn't start yet, they might be better off on a fresh server, I suppose. So if you just do all those 3 things, everyone's going to be kind of happy, I suppose, and that's decent.
I think so too, Doomsday. Yeah. How about you, Cargos?
Man, I am excited for Fresh. So there's a couple different
Fresh
things
Classic?
No, for Fresh Classic and Fresh TBC. I mean, Fresh Classic doesn't hit the same as it once did, though, for me. And you know why? It's because of the hardcore challenge. You get your own personalized mini Fresh with no stress whenever you want. And this type of Fresh, you don't have to deal with congested starting zones and, 10-man dungeon raiding and all. Like, there's just the scuffage that comes inevitably with a Fresh server launch and new everything, right? But TBC Fresh sounds so much fun, man. Getting to play with some of my best friends on the planet Earth.
You mean like a fresh option?
Just
like an option for people to play Fresh, or
just a brand new server, Def Camp, starting from level 1 together, new communities, new friends, new server
but not like
narrative.
Forcing that on everyone, right? Like
not forcing it. And they won't.
Right.
They won't. They won't. It's like what you said. The majority of players, so the majority of raiders and the majority of PvPers do not want Fresh. This is my theory on it. Let me know what you guys think. The reason why the PvPers don't want is that a lot of the hardcore PvPers, they can't stand leveling. Like, they hate leveling. They're trying to just arena. They want all their classes up to 60 so they can just grind it out, get the 70, and then just live in that ballpark. The raiders have put in time and sweat equity into building up their characters, and they want to just keep it going, and they have friends and a community. So, I mean, those are the 2 main buckets here. So they will turn these servers into TBC servers, like, I don't know, 95% chance, but they will hopefully have a couple TBC fresh servers. I've learned a lot from Classic. I'm curious to hear some of the lessons you guys have learned, like what didn't work out, what did work out. For me, a big takeaway as a streamer and all this is I do want to play on a PvE server. And it's not even the fact that I'm constantly getting ganked. It's just my headspace is different when I'm playing on a PvP server. Like, I just turn into a toxic asshole, kind of. Like, I don't know, like, I'm just trying to, like, multi-box and, like, we're just trying to assert as much dominance as possible on Skyrim, dueling outside of Blackrock Mountain and literally just, like, yo, fuck you, Alliance, like, literally kill them on sight to the point where they couldn't even try to fight back. And then that probably had some small role in, turning it into a PvE server. I don't know. I feel like I'm a better human if I'm on a PvE server, and I've said it on stream a lot. Like, back in the day when we were kids growing up, you couldn't even contact the other faction, right? They were just this mysterious and anonymous enemy that you just hated because they ganked you a million times. But in 2021, they're just one Discord DM away, one tweet away. You can easily contact these people, and it's a breeding ground for a lot of bad juju. But
I gotta admit though, that's the part of the game that I miss the most right now. On Skyrim is because, like, Skyrim unfortunately was a server that was already very horde dominated, and I feel like it really made the Alliance situation even worse for them, right? Because you already had like 80% horde that was just hunting the rest of the alliance. But when I played on a server that was, back in actual vanilla and back in the day, that was actually like, I think it was 60% alliance, 40% horde. It was one of the most amazing things that, like, just being like a rogue and being able to go and stealth into the opposite faction city and like having these really, really fun encounters. And like, for me, that is such a huge part of the game. That's why I really hope they kind of fix some of the server issues going into TBC. I think the fresh idea is a great idea. I think that would be, having a couple servers for fresh TBC, especially for new people coming in, would be great, right? But one of the biggest issues for me is that, a server that is supposed to be PvP that, should have this PvP feel to it doesn't because of how, skewed the realms are. So if there was some way to fix that, I feel like that would be a very important thing. Because, so, like when I'm out, doing shit, like I like having those adventures and having those, you never know what's going to happen, kind of feel like, alliance could come up and this, that, and the other. Like, to me, that's part of the game. I know a lot of people just don't have the time. They don't want to deal with that kind of stuff. But for me, I feel like that's part of the game is, having those PvP experiences out in the world. And I hope that Blizzard could do something to try and fix these servers that have 99% horde and, have, I think, way too many people. I think that's another thing, too, is a lot of these servers have way too many people than they should. The server health is not good, right? Because you have, 10,000 people or 15,000 people, all of which are horde, and then you have like the market is just completely, items in the auction house are way too much, or it's just completely gone off the board now. And I know that it would take some work for them to do it, but I feel like this is the time to do it. If they can do it, at least try. So
they can definitely look and see. Blizzard has a real precedent here, and they can try to see what went wrong with some of these servers, right? Like we've already talked about the Skyrim narrative. You guys in the chat, what went wrong on your servers if your server went to shit, right? Like for a lot of us, it's going to just be the timings of allowing server transfers that just like really snowballed out of control, right?
Couple with phase 2, yeah.
Yeah. The other thing I will say, DefCamp, just on that note, is keep in mind in TBC, it's a much smaller area, the Outlands, kind of like.
Oh,
so
I know. Yeah,
if you're trying to stream snipe someone, or if you're trying to just even if they're not a streamer, if you're just trying to pick on somebody, you're a few seconds away on a flying mount to their location.
Yeah, well, the good thing is that you do have flying mounts, right? So you do have a way to get away from people. So like when I played back in TBC on I think it was Wildhammer and Bleeding Hollow, the two servers I was playing on, were two very Wildhammer was a little bit more alliance heavy. Bleeding Hollow was a little horde heavy, but we had a lot of world PvP on those servers. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the times, it was very easy to get away from it if you didn't want to get involved in it. You just get on your flying mount and fly away. But if you wanted to get involved with it, and especially during the leveling process, right, there was a lot of world PvP. And I think that's something that people can either choose to engage with if you want to be on a PvP server or not, right? So if you don't want to have that issue, but just like you said, Cargos, you're going to play on a PvE server. I don't think if people don't want it to have world PvP, then don't play on a PvP server. Mm-hmm. I think it's just that simple. But unfortunately, I don't know what's going to happen now in TBC because of the state that we're in now. So, obviously, there are a lot of people who don't like it, and there are a lot of people who do. And the great part is that there are there are choices for both. But now, people who play on a PvP server don't have that choice, in servers like ours, because it's been taken away, essentially. So,
Here's something that I've been dying to get your opinion on, guys. Type something in the chat if you're live. I've never seen somebody discuss this in this light before. I think this is going to be a really interesting chat. So, DefCamp, Dunedain, Melderon, you guys are pretty geared to the teeth right now. You've been leveling a lot, right? And I assume you're planning to just take the guild into TVC, right? Right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So, let me set the stage here. From what I've been gathering, and I'm by no means a TBC big brain, but I'm learning a lot about the game with each week and talking with a lot of people who are. They have come to kind of a consensus. So you would assume that the top, TBC big brains would want to continue their characters in, right? As a generalization, they want to start fresh. And their take on this is that if you start into TBC with a zillion gold and a bunch of gear, you're cutting out. Let's be a little bit hyperbolic here, just for dramatic effect. You're cutting out 30% of the content, or maybe 35. maybe 40% of the content. Now I'm wondering, does that bother you, or does that not bother you at all? Maybe you honestly couldn't care less, and just let's unravel
Where's
that.
that 30% coming from though? Like, do you mean the leveling process?
No, not